ENGN Preview Series number 9, Twin Stars Adventure Series 1 with the creator, Jason Tagmire. Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome back to the ENGN Preview Series. And this is a little bit of a different kind of episode. Usually when we do these Kickstarter previews, we do them for month-long campaigns, and there's a lot of time. You can kind of look at it. This campaign is right there. It's only a week. So we're trying to get this up as soon as we can so that you can jump on it and see if you like what you see. So the game is Twin Stars. It is on Kickstarter right now. It is a quick dice rolling sci-fi adventure game. The publisher is Button Shy Games, and we have with us now the brain behind Button Shy Games, Jason Tagmire. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you.
All right, so we're just going to get right into it. We're going to get to know the game, and we'll do that in a second. But what I really like about the preview series, how they're coming out, is we get a chance to really get to know the designers of the games. So you have a really interesting story. I've heard a little bit about Button Shy Games before, so maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself as a designer and as the brain behind Button Shy.
Yeah, so I've been designing games since about 2009. I started out with a very project-oriented approach with self-publishing. So I made a couple games here and there, and most of them are to be unspoken of. But they did lead to better things. So one of those that I designed at the time was a little card game called Pixel Lincoln that was just this tiny, dumb, side-scrolling card game.
Was it
that?
Actually, was it Roll and Move?
It was Roll and
Move. I'm sorry. I saw, what was it, Chaz Marla on the Dice Tower had this little feature, whenever a designer designs their first game, it's always Roll and Move the first time.
Yeah, and it was like a really weird mashup of Roll and Move mixed with a side-scrolling card game. But it was an odd thing that it was just mimicking a video game. And eventually this group decided they were going to start making a video game based off of it, and then because it was all pixelated, it was Abraham Lincoln. It worked out really well. And then as they were working on that video game of it, I turned it into a deck building game that eventually was my first published game by an outside publisher, which was Pixel Lincoln, the deck building game.
Oh, okay.
So these worked out. Another one was just this silly card game called Starts With Ends With, where one card was a letter that starts a word, one card was a letter that ends a word, which eventually became an app. Eventually was just a small self-published thing, and now is becoming a new app in a game called Word Witch, which is just the same thing, the same concept of just creating long words. But those were my initial games that I don't like to speak of, but they did go on to bigger and better things, which is cool.
Cool. So this was outside publishers, but Button Shy is still a gleam in your eye at this point.
This was just me, just doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But they became things from outside publishers, and then I started designing a couple games. I did one of the Quarriors expansions with WizKids. I did a couple games with AEG and Eagle Gryphon, and it's kind of towards the tail end of this, I started doing the Button Shy thing. And the Button Shy thing became, I needed an angle to make games that were a little different than every other independent publisher out there, and something that fit my personality a little bit more. And we decided to make these wallet games, and we decided to make them on a regular basis, so it became more of like a subscription service than a standard release format. And the wallet games are basically 18 cards in a small bifold wallet, so you can kind of take them anywhere with you.
So you may, as solo players, not every game in this line is solo. I do encourage you guys to look at, the whole catalog of games. Maybe there's something that appeals to you. As solo players, we know Pentaquark by Mike Mullins.
Yeah.
Cool.
Pentaquark was our first full solo release, and Mike designed it on his own, and it's gone really well. It sells really well for us. People are tweeting about it all the time. It's a hard little tiny sciencey puzzler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So did that kind of was the reception to that kind of made sense as oh wow, there's a market for this kind of solo design stuff?
It was, because It was at a point where I was kind of questioning what we did well and what we needed to do better as Button Shy. And it was right in the middle of a year where we decided we're going to kickstart a game every month, which was grueling and impossible. And as soon as one campaign ends, you're prepping the next. And it was right in the middle of that. And I worked closely with Mike on development on other games and playtesting and everything. And he, and I think we were even working on Twin Stars at that point. But he had this idea for Pentaquark, and showed it to me, and it didn't blow my mind in the way that, like, oh my god, this is amazing. It blew my mind as in, oh my god, where did my brain go? Mm-hmm. So I was just like, this is above my level of thinking, but I get it and I understand it and I see that there's some appeal, but I have no clue where that appeal is going to be. It's going to be people who are into really physics and really intense science and solo players, and I don't know what the crossover is, and solo wasn't huge at the time. It wasn't like what it is now with like 9,000 people on Facebook and all that.
Yeah.
So it was sort of a gamble on my end because I didn't know what to expect in the least. And it wasn't a gamble on my end because the way we do this, we have so many pre-sold through Patreon and things like that everything can be almost break even at best. So knowing that it's a good game and putting, my word behind it and releasing it, I know that we'll at least, break even on it. Pentaquark went on to be our in our top 3 selling games for the year and all time so far. Nice. The Kickstarter had our biggest opening day ever at the time, and just it went really strong really quickly, and I was beyond shocked because I saw what the game was capable of, but it just was like it was above my level, and even thematically, I was just like, I don't know how many people are going to be into this, and everything worked out really well with it.
Mm-hmm. And so, what were the other 2 top selling games, so people get to know a little bit more about Button Shy?
So, Avignon, A Clash of Popes is probably our best selling longest selling game. We've had it since the beginning of last year. We've released a couple little tiny expansions for it, but it's just a push and pull, very abstract game about popes moving from Avignon to Rome. It's 2-player, mm-hmm. 2-player only. And it's a push and pull, almost like a chess style, Summoner War style game with abilities, but just it's pure, and it's very elegant. It's a great design. That sells very well. It's our biggest print run that we had up to. At the time, it was our biggest print run. We've done bigger since. And then our best-selling Kickstarter was Circle the Wagons, which it's just shipping to backers now. And that game won we had a contest last year for Wallet Game does 18-card designs. That game won. The second I saw the video, probably 20 seconds into the video, I said, this is the winner no matter what, because it just it things that nobody expected in such a tiny package, and there's a lot of game there. So it's sold well, and people are just getting it now and really psyched about it.
Did Mike design a solo mode for that?
He did, yeah. It's called Lone Cowboy, and it's really cool. It's thematic, and it hits all the beats that I want for a solo mode on a non-solo game. Mm-hmm. It's fun. It's good, and it's a cool little small package. And there's 6 different scenarios that all play considerably differently, and we actually have 3 more that are unreleased that we're trying to get out there.
Awesome. So there's a lot of goodies for you guys if you want to tune into Button Shy Games. Not only do you get product, you get solo game product, you get Avignon, which really is a fun game. I've played it, and I love the theme of it, just the clashing popes, and I'm a history nerd, so I got to get into that. I know about that stuff. So you got a lot there, and not just on the product side, but also there's an opportunity if you're a budding designer. If you do see the wallet game contest, I think you ran it on BGG. It might be just like, a nice little way to get your budding card game, at least noticed. So
yeah, I mean, we have a good batch of judges, and I know we're behind on giving out the feedback because it's a grueling process of just getting that, compiling 20 people's feedback forums. But it's a cool process, and a lot of people have come back for our other contests, and it's been fun.
All right, yeah. So without further ado, and I can hear the people saying, "Jason, let's hear about the game." Both of you, Jasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get to Twin Stars. So yeah, I haven't played it, but I've looked at the videos and such. So I kind of have a feel for what it is. So, but if you could tell us just kind of basically what it is, and then we can get into it.
So what I'll do is I'll read what Mike wrote, because it's much better than my description would ever be. Twin Stars Adventure Series 1, which is the title that Mike changed the night before the Kickstarter launched. His is so much better than mine, which was just called Twin Stars Collection. But Adventure Series 1 is a collection of 6 different scenarios with characters for Twin Stars. And Twin Stars has been, for the past year or so, a 3-card game, 1 scenario and 2 characters, where, and I'm reading this now, 2 cosmic adventurers are in a tricky scenario and must work together. By rolling and manipulating dice for special abilities and combos, you can be the one that guides them to victory. Now what that means is there's a scenario card with a bunch of tracks on it that you'll use. You've previously used your own bits to just kind of track them and roll your own dice, but one of them, for example, is Escape the Brig, and you have the 2 characters. They're represented by a coin, a token, whatever. They're trying to make it down one track before the guard makes it down the other track towards them and can see them. And what you're doing is each character has a card with numbers 1 through 6 on the dice, and they have different icons on them. And certain combinations of those icons show up on the scenario card, and, for example, star, and that's going to be something really good that can move the characters forward to escape the brig, or move them forward in another scenario to rule the world, or whatever it may be. So you're going to roll dice. You're going to place them on your characters one by one. If you can, there's all kinds of abilities that can help you manipulate those dice and change things around. But if eventually you hit a combo with the 2 dice, you do the combo and then kind of start over by rolling your dice and placing them. If you don't make a combo, what you're going to do is you're going to choose one of the 2 characters and knock their die down by 1 digit. The other die is going to come back to your hand and you're going to re-roll it. So you're choosing which character to kind of help you set up for a combo, or which one you want to re-roll because they have better abilities that only trigger immediately after the rolls. There's a lot of stuff like that, and then there's a lot of different things on the scenario card where, you know, there's good things that happen based off combos, there's bad things, then there's also unique things based on the scenario where every time you re-roll a die you must do something. So there's all kinds of variability to the scenarios. So we came up with them as 3-card sets, gave them away as like Kickstarter rewards in like relevant sci-fi games and things like that, gave them away on Patreon, and now we've compiled all of them, added some more, and put together this Twin Stars Adventure what is it? Adventure Series 1 Kickstarter. I keep calling it Adventure Pack, and I know that's wrong, but
Right.
it's
So,
because it's like 5 days old, that title.
And so, like, it's called Twin Stars because you were mentioning how you kind of match up combos. Like, the best combo you can get is Twin Stars, right?
Yeah, so there's a couple things behind the name. One is you're trying to get the 2-star combo, because that's always the best advancement you can make. There's other combos that are also advancement, but the 2-star combo is usually the one that leads you to quick victory. The other thing is you're playing 2 characters, so they're kind of the stars of the show. They're your twin stars, and it's always 2 characters in a scenario.
Okay, cool. So yeah, let's get into the game itself. I like to start with theme. So for a 3-card game, and I have to really emphasize that, 3 cards. There is you guys managed to squeeze a lot of theme into the game. So I'm watching at the beginning one is like Escape the Brig. So I'm watching these 2 little alien dudes, move forward and, or not move forward. Like they trip over something and they pull the guard closer to them. I mean, it's not, like perfect or anything. Why is the guard only moving 1 step at a time? You can't, you can't like go too crazy with it.
He's not a smart guard. He's a
just
dumb
kind of
guard.
Like, ooh.
Yeah, exactly.
But
here's something, he moves to it.
But there really was like a surprising amount of theme. I'm wondering, I mean, obviously that was intentional, but I'm wondering, like the process behind getting as much resonance as you did.
I mean, and I'm trying to remember the timeline, but part of it is like going back to like Pentaquark. When Mike designed Pentaquark, it's a very sciencey puzzler game, and when he gave it to me, I was like, "Where's like the scenario and like all that kind of stuff?" Because to me, like as a person who enjoys solo games and non-solo games, I love theme, I love story, and I love just the games where I have scenarios and I can really just kind of get lost in it. So that was one of the things where I didn't know how it was going to go on Pentaquark because it was straight challenge. That's what that game is.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But for this, like I wanted that to be upfront and front and foremost. So a good third of the cards needs to be designed for theme. So it cuts our design space down considerably. But it was just very important to me that, here is this space story, here's what's happening, and here's the why. Because if I don't have the why, I sort of don't care to go any further a lot of the times. So getting that, why are we doing this, and what are the impacts and the results into this 3-card game was huge for me. And since then, I've been working on a couple other 3-card games because the format is just really cool, and it's neat as a publisher because I can squeeze 3 cards onto a print run.
Yeah.
And if I'm in the right ranges of numbers, it barely makes a difference. So it's an easy thing that I can get out there. So I've been working on.
I imagine it's easy to prototype as well.
Oh, it's super easy to prototype. It's a single page. It can be a page with rules sometimes. So I can send that out to people. But it's we're working on a couple other like 3-card things, and to me the theme has to be strong.
Awesome.
Especially with it being so small, it could be forgettable really quickly, and I think the theme is the thing that makes it less forgettable.
Awesome. Yeah. So there are 2 other kind of thematic-ish quick dice games that are out in the market right now. Not 3 cards, but, very, very small. I'm talking about One Deck Dungeon and Deep Space D6. So these 2 games really have lit the solo community on fire. I really feel like in terms of this kind of explosion that we've had recently, 8,000 people on Facebook, 7,000 people in the One Player Guild. That's a ton of, I know there's overlap, but that's a really ton of people, and it's new people, and they're all playing these really quick, One Deck Dungeon is a little bit longer because there's a lot of levels, but that you're rolling dice and you're moving, you're simulating moving through some sort of adventure. Deep Space D6, you're kind of the enemies are attacking you, but it's still there's that sense of progression. Did those games in any way influence your design of Twin Stars?
So I haven't played either. So on my end,
never mind.
On my end, they probably didn't. Mike plays all kinds of solo stuff, and he's mentioning it all the time, and I have no clue. I work 100 hours a day, so it's really difficult for me to play a lot. But I know Mike's been playing all these things, and he's got a really big hand in the development end of anything I've designed for Twin Stars, and he's designing his own stuff, and my development end is a complete different gut reaction side and kind of the way that I work. But I'm sure he's played all of them. For the core, none of it did. It was just, it came down to, we wanted this dice mechanic where you roll 2 and then you choose 1 to knock down. So mechanically, that's where that came from. And on the other side, thematically, it was just to get a game in 3 cards, you need more. So, we had to throw in the dice and the bits and the things like that. So I haven't played either. They both sound really cool. The D6 one looks from a product development side, it looks amazing. It's so inspiring from just a product side that I have to play it at some point.
And they're largely one-man operations over there, which is you guys are collaborating, but it's still a very small doing a lot with a little, which is a really, really awesome thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, in terms of a design question, both of those games have to kind of deal with the issue of difficulty. So you're playing a dice game that's super, super stripped down, and so it's just dice, and that means you have this giant range of outcomes where some games would be way too hard, some games would be way too easy, just depends on where the dice falls. So, Chris Ceslick he's been open about the fact that One Deck Dungeon came out a little bit harder than he wanted it to, and he's a programmer, so like he had a handle on it, but still just the dice of it all, kind of influences all that. So did that kind of play into the formulation of Twin Star? Do you guys have like that in mind, the difficulty?
Yeah, I mean, I know Mike likes things very difficult, and I like things, I would say, like a 40% win feels good to me. It feels like less than half the time I'm winning, and more than half the time I'm trying my hardest to win. So I come back after I lose. If I win something every time, I'm done. I'm not going to keep playing it because I've done everything. Right. So hitting those percentages is important to me. With the dice in mind, it throws everything off that almost anything can happen, but we've added enough like variability and enough outside of the dice. If you choose to do this, something else is going to happen. Things like that. We added a lot outside of there just to make it so the difficulty's there. There's a lot of design for length. I don't want this to end in 4 minutes and people just be over it.
Want 4 minutes.
Yeah, to me, and that's a longer, deeper conversation. But I feel like something needs a little meat to it to be memorable. So the meat is in the complexity, the meat is in the theme, the meat is in the decisions, and the meat is in the amount of time you play it.
And I think it's also in the progression, like the fact that minute 7 you're in a different spot than you were in minute 1. I know you still have dice, you don't have like resources in this game, but your marker is moved a little bit further along the thing. The guard is that much closer to hitting whatever. So like at least it's kind of moving, and that's really
you can
thing.
See exactly what you've accomplished so far. So we have a lot of different tracks on the cards and things like that, and there was quite a bit of balance in playtesting and development in just figuring out, the bad track needs to be a little bit shorter because it's not as threatening as it should be, and with the die rolls being their own thing and being a 1 through 6, and when you double them, the probability changes a little bit. The tracks themselves were our controllable metrics that we could lengthen and shorten to create the difficulty that we wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wow. So yeah, I left definitely a lot of attention put into that part of the game. Looking forward, Twin Stars Adventure Series 1, which implies Twin Stars Adventure Series 2, 3, 4, like LeBron James, not 4, not 5, not 6.
So my guess would be like 2.5. I don't even know. We designed 6 of these scenarios and 12 characters. The design space is tight. It's extremely tight in getting what you can out of the mold that we've created. So after we designed 6 of them, the design space is even tighter. So we do on Patreon, we give away scenarios and characters and things like that. So we promised all of 2017 that they'd get 4 of them. I think we've sent 2 or 3, so there will be more Twin Stars for sure. And how much of it? It's just how much of it we can design, keep it fun, and keep it interesting, keep it different. So with that in mind, as the Kickstarter is going really well, I decided to start talks with Mike about what we could do for Series 2. Mm-hmm. And we have a couple ideas. One is I threw out a whole bunch of thematic, scenarios that we don't have yet. And we kind of tinkered around on just like how they would work from a design side and still be a little different. We also talked about potentially getting other designers, to see if there's something fresh that somebody wants to bring to it, either a third person or just try somebody on their own.
That's how AJ Porfirio over at Van Ryder Games kind of breathed new life into Hostage Negotiator. So another quick dice game. You wouldn't think there's a lot of design space, but he let some other people under the hood. And you get the new abductors, you get vans, you get day and night, you get all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah, that was really cool. A really great move by him.
Yeah, so that's and Mike talks about that game nonstop. I own it, and I just still haven't played it yet. But that's one that I know is inspiring, and AJ is great with that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I tinkered this weekend on a new scenario called, it's temporarily called Master and Apprentice. everything starts out as a Star Wars title and works its way away from that pretty much. Some of them keep that, but everything starts out as a scene from Star Wars in my head, essentially. But Master and Apprentice is so far, like, the design of it came together really quick, and I'm super happy with it this weekend. It's basically just like, and this is, I guess, Twin Stars Adventure Series 2 or Patreon or whatever. But it's just it's two characters. One is your master, one is your apprentice. The apprentice can never peek over the master's abilities, and if he does, he essentially goes to the dark side. So what you're doing is you're controlling the characters independent of each other, which we haven't done yet. Sort of on a Stop the Virus one, there was a doctor and a patient. But you're trying to control the characters, keep their levels right, while doing different trials and avoiding temptation. So that's what I started tinkering on Friday. I worked on it through the weekend, and it's cool because it feels different than what we've done, which I was afraid that it would be hard to do. And Mike already came up with one that was crazy and super good and different. So there is some design space in there, so I'm sure we'll see a second one. And this is done really well, so it's worth putting time into a second.
Yeah, totally. So that's all the questions that I had about Twin Stars. Anything else you want to share with the peoples?
No, it's just a quick campaign. It's a fun little experience that I think is different than a lot of things because it's a small package with a lot of replayability. There's 18 cards, but the combinations of scenarios with two characters go up to 396 unique games essentially. So there's some cool space in there to kind of make the game your own and experience something you haven't done before. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so this game is already funded. You are going to get this game if you back it. So the purpose of this interview is to just get more and more people, just as many people as possible into the game itself, but also into like Button Shy in general. I think like if Kickstarter does anything, it's a vehicle for people to get games early, but it's also kind of creates a relationship with the publisher itself. And you're like, Kickstarter every month and, putting out updates. And so what's in the future for Button Shy in terms of like products and in terms of like community involvement?
So Patreon's ongoing. We have it's called the Board Game of the Month Club. We ship out games every month, usually late because it's just so much to juggle. But it's like a postcard game, some expansion content, some tiny games. Sometimes there's a Twin Stars in there, things like that. We also have a triple Kickstarter coming up next month because we started to do 3 games at a time just to avoid having to Kickstart every month. So that's coming up. It's Hero Tech, Kintsugi, and In Vino Morte, 3 very different games that you should start seeing stuff over the next couple of weeks about. That's going to be coming up soon. And then before Twin Stars ends, we have a Roll and Write Kickstarter launching from the Spiel Press, which is a collaboration between Button Shy and Nevermore Games. And it's Roll and Write game books. And this is a double campaign. It's 2 game books. One that I designed called Blood Royals, one that Brian Fisher designed called Star Maps, and that's going up on the day before Twin Stars ends. So it's just wild right now with Kickstarter and Patreon and everything.
Oh my! I do not envy that schedule. That is crazy.
Yeah, it's tough.
So, but in terms of the triple, so could you pledge for 1 or 2 or 3? Is that how it works?
Yeah, the way we do the triple campaigns, one of them is the main feature because it's really easy to kind of get lost in the quantity versus the single item. So the game that we're kickstarting is going to be Hero Tech by Dwayne Kolar, and it's a spy / superhero. You work for an agency called Hero Tech, and you're equipping spies and superheroes with their gadgets, their outfits, their lair, and all that, and their vehicle. So it's a really cool combo based card game that has almost like a Seven Wonders kind of tree that you work through of drafting. Cool. So that's like the main feature. Kintsugi is with that, and that's it's like a very abstract. I'm trying to think of it's like stone and pattern like placement game. It's by Daniel Solis and Mark McGee, and it was in our contest. It was one that was submitted and made it to the finals. And it's so cool to look at and just see how it works its way across the table. And then the third game is Invino Morte, which is just like a very simple semi-deduction game where one player's and it plays a high player count. One player's giving out either bottles of wine or glasses of wine or glasses of poison, and you're going to decide whether you're going to take the one or you're going to trade it, and it's just real like it's a real simple but cool like party style deduction game that can play a large crowd. And we put that out through our Board Game of the Month club a couple months ago, and it did well, so we bumped it up to the wallet line for a larger player count. So what you'll do is you can buy one, which is anyone, and you can buy any two, you can buy any three, or all three, or however you want to do it. And the prices go down with the quantity. And shipping is the same, I think, for almost all three. So you save shipping if you buy more than if you would buy games individually.
Cool. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on. We definitely in a world where you have these big flagship companies, the Asmodees and the Cool Mini or Nots, it's really awesome to see that there's such vitality on kind of this micro level. You're just one dude coordinating with people, putting out these tiny little games that are, really entertaining, really represent diversity among like the gamer spectrum. So you got your party games, you got a little bit of brain birdie, difficult strategy, you have, the adventure emulating game, dice games, card games. So super, super cool. Whatever we could do to kind of support you. And if, we have another hot solo Kickstarter, you are welcome back on the show.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. And that's going to do it for another episode of the preview series. Thank you so much for Jason to come on. A little bit of under the hood stuff. We actually did record an episode a couple of days ago, but it got disappeared due to the wonders of technology. So he was super cool. He came on the show again, and we just kind of went over the same stuff. So magic, the magic of editing. So I mean, I put that out there because just to underscore how super cool he is. I think when you invest in a button shy game, you're really not just getting a game, but you're getting a relationship. You're getting a lot of different content. So definitely recommend you guys checking those out. I hope you got a sense for what the game is and what the publisher is, so that you guys make a better decision about whether you want to back or not. So that's going to do it. As always, please check us out. Our Twitter is ENGN_podcast. We are active on Facebook and BGG. You can check us out also at BoardGamersAnonymous.com. Anthony and I both post regular reviews and usually of the games that we don't quite get a chance to cover on the regular pod. So between the website and the podcast, we got you covered for all your gaming goodness. And please, if you have a little bit of time, check out the Google Play Store, check out the iTunes Store, and give us a rating, 5 stars if you prefer. But whatever rating you decide you want to give us, the more ratings we get, the more we kind of float to the top of search engines and all that kind of stuff. So it really, really helps the podcast. That's basically it. So that's been another episode of the preview series. This is Jason signing off. Later, everybody.